Hi there, we are back with the part-to-part session, week 5. Here you see a beautiful painting by Raphael, Deposition of Christ. And you see there are a couple of figures that we can study together. And I can demonstrate you how the part-to-part approach works. Actually, you have to combine what you learned so far in the previous weeks in gesture, in form and connection, landmarks, proportions, put that all together, and then the synthesis of that would be the part-to-part type of like drawing or method. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in a bit and focus on this figure holding the legs of Christ. And let me choose this color. All right. So in part-to-part, you start with the head, but this time you're gonna add more details. And you're gonna also think about the likeness. Not only the proportions in a simple, highly abstract drawing, but as you can see, I'm trying to work on the portrait a bit, add a bit of emotions. And finish one part, for example, the head, and then go to the next section, which is the neck. So now I'm done with the head, so I can keep going, add more overlaps, landmarks. What's this landmark? The 7th cervical vertebra. And then you have the shoulder. So we're gonna mix up gesture and structure together in this method. Have the pelvis, drapery is something that I will explain to you later. So let's just keep up with the simple form of the body itself. Okay, now I can add the arms. There we go. So I want to accentuate some of the lines, make them darker, add a kind of spatial quality to my drawing by bringing contrast to my lines. This line should be absolutely dark because the light is coming from this angle. You can introduce this cross-hatching as well. Cross-hatching is really simple. You just start with one direction. Lines should be equidistant, and then you add more directions to it till it gets darker and darker. You can do the same thing using curved lines, which is a bit harder. But at first, you do this. Imagine you have this vase. Light is coming from top left. I'm gonna have this light and shadow. Start putting these lines like that to just separate light and shadow, and then gradually you can add more contrast to your work. You see? So then you have to learn also the value system, halftones, etc. But I'm gonna keep that really simple for now, so don't worry about it. But it was time actually to introduce you the cross-hatching a bit. You see, I'm trying to follow the form of trapezius muscle over there. All right, I'm gonna just add a bit of drapery here as well. Here's the cast shadow of the arm. If you have a white pastel, you can also add highlights on your work if you want. But white actually is quite tricky because some, students, they love it and they put white everywhere, and then their drawings become flat. And you don't want that to happen. I have to make the arm a bit shorter. If you want to get better also at cross-hatching, you can get a dip pen and an ink or a fountain pen and then practice that. Okay, you see in the part to part, we are finally introducing a bit of detail. And it's not generic anymore. Because we have the structure in our mind, we have the gesture in our mind, so we are able to control, what forms we want to represent, how we want to do that. So we are in control of our drawing. The other leg is totally in the shadow. And see, I'm only using one direction in my lines. I can use thicker lines as well for the hair, where it's needed. Line diversity is absolutely helpful, and it creates a really beautiful music, I would say, in our work. Because if we compare drawing to music, which is something that has been done over and over in history of art, for example, Arcimboldo is one of the artists, Italian artists, that was absolutely interested in this type of studies and research. So a thick line like this is equal to Do. So we can have an octave here. And then as it's getting narrower and darker, we are going higher in the music, in the notes. So from Do to Si. So you have Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si. Re gets thinner, Mi gets thinner, Fa, Sol, La, and Si. But I have to show you also the darkness of them. Si is like this. A tiny, thin, let me write it down, thin and dark line. La. Just through this, through managing the lines, you can create a harmonious drawing, where you have these thick lines, where you have a really bass tone. You can have a thin and dark line, like here. And here. Where we have a really high note. And by managing all of that, you can create a really rhythmic, harmonious, musical piece of art. By the way, if you're interested in this analogy, all these analogies between art and science, please read this book, Science of Art by Martin Kemp. That book is absolutely amazing and gives you a lot of information about the scientific aspect of perspective, of color, music, because the same thing also happens between music and colors. Each color has a certain similarity with a type of note. And Martin Kemp is absolutely an expert of Renaissance period. And he has a lot of things to say and to teach you in his book. So Science of Art, don't forget that. So let's get back here to our drawing. I'm trying to see where I can add more darkness and contrast. Definitely here on the right side of the figure is where I can add all these dark lines like this. Look at this line quality. See, the line can start really thin and then get thicker, then get thinner again. So thin, thick, thin. These are all different types of rhythms that you can create in your drawings. But you're going to reach to that level by studying masters, by exercising a lot and thinking about it, most importantly. And finally getting really sensitive to the essence of sign and line itself. All right. Now we can do another example. I'm gonna do it smaller right here. So part to part is actually where you freely combine everything you know. About gesture. You see the lines, line quality. So your drawing gets much more mature in a sense, and artistically. and artistic. Look at this beautiful torsion here. It's incredible. I see something like this here. So beautiful. Okay, I would say you can continue using the same reference and using this part-to-part method. Here I suggest you to put maximum 20-minute time limit for yourself, not more than that, okay? Because in part-to-part, in 20-minute, you can do many things. So far we started like this, from 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, quick sketches, and then forms and connection maybe needs 10 minutes. And if you want to add landmarks and think about proportions, put a 15-minute timer. But part to part, I think 20 minutes is perfect. So for each time limit, you have a kind of plan and you know what you do and where you are in the process, okay? Each week actually takes part in the whole process of building figure. So you start with gesture, and then you add forms to it, you add landmarks, the skeleton to it. And based on the time you have and your goal, you can choose what element you want to use and what you want to eliminate. So it's up to you. But at least you have all these lamps that you can turn on and turn down. So it's you controlling all these tools. And that's the good part about knowing to draw properly. All right. This is it, guys, for this week, part to part. I hope you enjoyed this session. Next week, we're going to have the class about portrait drawing. So till then, take care and see you soon. Bye-bye.